All right, so imagine this. You call in sick at work, but then a picture of yours emerges at the airport, or better yet, you post it on your WhatsApp status, or maybe somewhere on social media. So this reportedly happened to a lecturer at an institution of higher learning where her picture was seen to be circulating, and it had a caption that was indicating that she wasn't feeling well and she was about to leave the country, but she had called in sick and she was meant to be invigilating on that particular day. But she's now challenging her dismissal, and she says that she was never at the airport at the time, and in fact that is an old picture. But this is not the only new case. At some point here on the show, we're speaking about a state attorney's office employee who had been on sick leave for 7 years, and her colleagues had been seeing her, claiming that there were pictures of her circulating, showing her on holiday. And when she's supposed to be returning to work, she said she was too sick to return to work. So let's now just explore this and see what are the do's and don'ts if you've called in sick, and what then happens if your picture emerges somewhere. Let's speak to senior labor law consultant Saber Ahmed Jazbhay. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, first things first, we're watching our viewers tonight, and they were, just having a field day with this particular question, because we're asking them about the sick leave, policy, and what happens then if your pictures are seen on social media and you've called in sick. So is it against the law to post pictures of yourself on your WhatsApp status or a social media page while you've called in sick and you probably aren't at home, you are out and about?
All right, let me issue a caveat first. I cannot give you an opinion. I can give you. Now, if you are supposed to be sick, if you posted in that you are ill and you're at home, and you post up on the social media that finds you anywhere but homes or at home, then you are in hot water. That's something that you got to be very careful about when you engage in this kind of activities. Very often, I've come across people who engage in this kind of stuff. There was a person, for example, in Saber who posted in, who gave a sick note to his company, and then next moment he was found toying outside a rugby stadium during the World Cup. So that can be a problematic area, my dear.
So what happens then if someone says, for example, okay, I may have called in sick, but now I'm on my way maybe to see my doctor who's in a different province, and you actually saw a picture of me on maybe social media or my WhatsApp status while I was headed to my doctor. Does that argument hold water?
Unless you have a very good alibi or somebody joining you who can support you, I think that will be very silly. And if it shows you, for example, on your way to a doctor, but you're by the beachfront, or you're in a rugby stadium, or you're at a pub. So these kind of situations can be very, very dicey, can be problematic, if I may use the word. Yeah. And it is inadvisable for anybody who is ill or sick to even go to that level of posting a photograph, or even posting on Facebook or on social media that I'm ill. Don't do that.
So, Saber, what happens then, for example, if your employer then calls you in and maybe there are pictures of yours that have been seen, maybe you are not the one that has posted these pictures yourself, and maybe a colleague took some pictures of yours. Can you then argue, or how admissible is that evidence then in that particular hearing, or can you argue against it?
It is arguable. If, for example, you got definite proof that you were sitting at the doctor's at a particular time, then of course, obviously, you can use that. It's called alibi defense, in the sense that if somebody can say that you definitely will be with them at any given time, or when a particular time that the matter appeared on Facebook or on social media. Yes, you can, but it's a tall order. It is, unfortunately, in the social media age, it is possible for such kind of fraud or black ops kind of situation to develop.
So what happens then, because some companies have got a policy that says maybe today, if you're reporting sick, just one day, you don't have to, furnish the company with a sick note. But if it's 2 days and above, then you have to see a doctor and you have to file a doctor's certificate. So if it happens that you just say, I have a slight headache, I can't come in, but then during the day, you then decide to go to the supermarket and you actually say to your boss, I was feeling better during the day, but I don't have to produce a medical certificate. How do they navigate those waters?
Nothing stopping you if you are ill and you are alone for you to go to a local supermarket. I mean, nothing. There is no caveat against that.
Yeah.
But remember this: many people go take leave on a Friday and a Monday, a long weekend. Now that is a situation that I will be very wary about. In that situation, the situation you described, of course, a person can go to a doctor's, to a local supermarket.
Yeah.
But he can't be seen, he or she can't be seen gallivanting, as it were, in a beachfront or anywhere but where he's supposed to be. For example, a lot of people are staying alone at home. They don't have the support structures like many other big families are. So in that particular instance, yes, you can. There's no harm. There's no crime in you doing that. However, I would be circumspect if I'm going out. I would be circumspect in advising my company that, look, I'm just going to step in out for about half an hour. I'll be going to the supermarket to buy some food. That is something that will hold you in good stead. Remember, an employee is getting paid paid leave for staying at home, and that is critical for him to ensure that he does not break any rules.
So one of the viewers tonight says that maybe the employer must think about a lie detector test here to see if this employee is telling the truth or not. Is that a wise move for the employer?
Well, put it this way, there is disciplinary hearing that takes place. The employer is allowed to investigate any misconduct. Remember, the first thing that needs to be done is a report that the employee has committed or has purportedly committed a misconduct, an act of misconduct. Now, that will mean that an investigation takes place. An investigation can involve for the applicant or the employee to subject himself to a polygraph test. Now, there's a recent decision that was handed down almost a few days ago to the extent that if the applicant or the employee refuses to undergo a polygraph test. Remember, polygraph test is not accurate, it's inadmissible in a court of law, but it gives an indication as to the possibility or the probability of the employee or the applicant being in misconduct. So if he refuses, depending on the seriousness of charge. Now remember this, a once-off situation, for example, if you are ill for a day, first time, after many months you got ill, then that is not, a polygraph test won't be necessarily the way forward. But if a person is constantly sick, getting sick almost, let's put it in every month he's taking a convenient day off, that will trigger a possible investigation and a polygraph test. Yes. So I will be very wary in circumstances of that nature.
So Shabir, what happens then, because you know, as we wrap up, there's also a case that we covered here on the show where someone was on sick leave for 7 years. And they kept on saying that they were waiting for their employer to then make sure that they approve their application for early retirement, for example. So how does that work then? Because it's 7 years later, and this person, according to some of their colleagues, they are seen out and about, but they are saying that they are too sick to report for duty.
There's something called social media, WhatsApp, there's a telephone call. Surely would respect to that person a telephone call. To wait for 7 years, I think that is probably the depth of credibility. It is something that is very strange, an excuse to wait for 7 years. To do nothing for 7 years is an act of resignation, actually, in my opinion. But I say it without knowing the full fact. I'm just saying if a person stays away for a longer period, an inordinate period of 7 years, let alone 7 days, that is problematic. Surely the employee would have phoned the employer and said, listen, I made an application for early retirement. What is my position?
And it was one of our questions, but we're still waiting to hear exactly what's going to happen with this one. But thank you so much, Shabir, for your time. It certainly is a very interesting conversation, and it is our question tonight. So do tell us, what are your thoughts on this one? That is Senior Labour Law Consultant Saber Ahmed Jazbhay.